Okay, so this is gonna be a fun one. Today I'm taking a look at the VEVOR cold cut chop saw. We got our instructions. We also got, so it's nice they actually gave us a couple extra brushes, and we got a big old Allen Phillips in here. We got a wrench, a little bend in it. Oh, look at that guy. Look at that monster. Okay. So we can see right here, we do have a pin to lock it in, so if you ever need to transport it, we can just grab it like this and pick it up. But when we want to go to use it, just pull that pin out. Looks like it's already got a spring on it. And then we can use it. So it is a standard chop saw. There is no miter to it. So that's nice. We do have that quick release right there. But we can loosen this guy up. Oh, that's interesting. There's actually a little screw on there to make sure that nobody accidentally moves this. We can undo this screw, so that's going to be what this wrench is for. I've never seen that, but that's actually a really good idea because I've seen these things wiggle all over the place. So we got the little bolt out that is holding the handle in place. Now we can loosen that, and then we can adjust the angle. So even though we can't get a miter cut, we can still get angle cuts, which is very important because if you plan on cutting steel, you often do angled cuts. But most of the time, I'm just going to be doing a 90. So I got that straight. And you can kind of see there is a gauge back here, so you know if you're going to get your full 90 or if you're off by 15, 30, or 45 degrees going either way. And then we'll just put that bolt back in. I have to say, I really like having that because, yeah, the amount of times where they thought they knew what they were doing, but they didn't, or they moved it, but they didn't want to put it back, that is just going to save a whole lot of trouble. So you got a nice grooved surface right here, but also has a nice rough texture on here too, so that's great. And of course this plate can move to accommodate whatever angle this is at, and I can move this back and forth freely. The teeth are right here, so if I ever want to lock this down, just put it up close to my metal, drop that, and then I can get a nice tight lock. Got a great big blade on here. And if you don't know, cold cut saws are good for cutting mild steel. You don't want to cut anything that's like a hardened steel because that'll just rip up these teeth. So you can see this is a VEVOR branded blade. This is a 355 by 2.2. You can see these little swirl marks. So you see I can flex that a little bit. So a good blade should have that. And this is a 66 tooth blade. Got a very nice spring on there. So anyway, back to cold cut saws. Cold cut saws are great because an abrasive wheel, it's going to take longer to cut. You're also going to have a very hot surface whenever you're done. And it's going to give you a rougher surface. These things, if you've never used one before, it will completely change the game for you for cutting mild steel. Now what most new people do whenever they get these things is they'll just take it and they'll run it down to the metal and they will chop right through it real quick like that. What will surprise them is the fact that it actually works. But if you do that a few times, that will actually knock the tip of these teeth off. So you don't want to do that. Even though it can cut very quick, you want to go down very slowly. It's still going to be faster than an abrasive saw, but you need to resist the temptation to just go for it. It's 2800 watts, so you want to make sure that your setup can handle that, and 1200 RPM. So that's the most important thing. That's what sets apart cold cutoff saw from an abrasive cutoff saw. Abrasive cutoff saws run much faster than that. Way faster than you ever want to put one of these blades on. So I've seen people that they try to put those blades on an abrasive saw, and then maybe they'll change the voltage or something like that, but what you're going to lose with that is you're going to lose torque. These are slower speed, but much higher torque because these actually have teeth. They're basically machining the surface of that metal. So low speed, much higher torque. Now, I didn't think a grip on here was going to stand out, but it actually does. This is a very nice rubberized grip. This feels great. And a very strong feeling trigger as well. So that is very nice. So if you ever want to take this blade off, there is a pin right here. So we just push that in. So it locks. Then we can use an 8mm hex. Make sure we're holding in that button because we don't want that blade to spin. There we go. And I'm very glad that they thought to do this. You can see this shape. That matches up with this shape right here, so you don't have to worry about that thing spinning. Okay, and that is in fact a 1-inch arbor. It does say 25.4. I just want to make sure, so that is equal to 1 inch. Make sure the teeth are facing this way. Press that button in again, and lock it down. So that's great. So what that means is that this is equivalent to a 14-inch blade with a 1-inch arbor. So if you ever want to replace that and you don't want to have to get a metric version, you can use whatever kind of blade that you want as long as it is a 1-inch arbor and a 14-inch width. Now another thing I like to see is we actually have a fairly tall base. What that means is we're going to be able to get this thing to cut. You can see it's going to be able to go pretty deep in there without actually hitting the table. And what that means is if you need to cut a very long length, you're actually going to be able to do that with this saw because this base is so thick. And they even gave us a couple of threaded holes right here. So if we want to add some kind of an attachment to it, we can do that. That's nice. Yeah. Yep.
It's made from steel?
Yep.
Are you serious?
So this is the thing, if you've never seen one of these, it would probably be the most surprising, is I can pick this thing up right after I cut it. Nice and cold. I put my fingers on it, that is not even, it's not even warm. This is still cold. Nice clean cuts. These saws are amazing. These are the best chop saws I've ever seen. Right? Yeah, I love these things. Well, you can, that's the great thing about it, is you can cut wood, you can cut plastic, you can cut metal. As long as it's mild steel, you cannot cut hardened steel. So if I was to take like a hardened shaft or something, right. Right. So anything you'd be able to machine, you'd be able to cut with it. But yeah, it cuts it great. And it still cuts pretty quick. Way quicker than the abrasive saw I got over there. Even quicker than the band saw I got over here. These things are just great.